Well, while President-elect Donald Trump has been taking credit for a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas, and I say potential because it appears that Israel has already reneged on said deal, there is one Republican that has slammed the ceasefire deal and the terms within it, calling it an utter failure. So this is drama because again, Donald Trump's been celebrating the deal. He's been taking credit for pressuring Israel to accept the deal, but it appears there are some Republicans who aren't really buying it. So let's get into the details of who this is, what he's saying. Now look, it's Senator Tom Cotton. He's a well-known neocon and he wants Israel to get all the cookies, nothing for the Palestinians. And so of course he's going to regurgitate what the far-right members of the Israeli government want and simply say that this deal is terrible. But before we get to his statement, I think it's worth reading what Donald Trump had to say about the ceasefire deal and how he took credit for it. He says this epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory in November, as it signed to the entire world that my administration would seek peace and negotiate deals to ensure the safety of all Americans and our allies. I am thrilled American and Israeli hostages will be returning home to be reunited with their families and loved ones. Further, Trump wrote, and this is all on Truth Social, we have achieved so much without even being in the White House. Just imagine all of the wonderful things that will happen when I return to the White House and my administration is fully confirmed so they can secure more victories for the United States. So Donald Trump obviously was in a very celebratory mood yesterday as he was commenting about the ceasefire deal, which yesterday appeared was gonna go through. But the prime minister of Israel at the time even gave him credit for it. Let's take a look at what he posted on social media. So of course, this is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke this evening with US President-elect Donald Trump and thanked him for his assistance in advancing the release of the hostages and for helping Israel bring an end to the suffering of dozens of hostages and their families. Now, again, that was posted on January 15th. Today is January 16th. And today, word got out that Israel has not agreed to the ceasefire deal. So again, that update is incredibly important. But putting that aside for now, let's just get to what Senator Tom Cotton had to say about the ceasefire deal. Apparently, he doesn't want an end to this war. He wrote, why is lame duck Joe Biden trying to cram down a bad deal on Israel on his way out the door? The only deal should be unconditional surrender by Hamas, which is already nearly destroyed, and return of all hostages. Instead, we hear reports that Biden is demanding that Israel withdraw from key terrain in Gaza, release dozens of hardened terrorists for every one hostage, and get back only some hostages. Here's the deal to offer Hamas and its patron, Iran. You have 5 days to release all the hostages or we unleash hell. Okay, tough guy. So clearly, Senator Cotton didn't get the memo from the incoming administration because again, they were the ones celebrating it. And look, to Trump's credit, he doesn't want to deal with this war when he comes in. He has other things he wants to focus on, and he wants the war to come to an end, which is why he's been pushing for a ceasefire deal even before he even enters office. And look, if you're unfamiliar with Tom Cotton, he is a rabid neocon. He is a symbol of the old guard within the Republican Party. He's really no different from Liz Cheney. And I think it's important for people to realize that certainly the MAGA base that doesn't really agree with the neoconservatism of the Republican Party in years past, they should know that Tom Cotton is no different. Maybe Tom Cotton isn't willing to do what Liz Cheney did in speaking out against Donald Trump. But when it comes to the foreign policies that a portion of the MAGA base absolutely despises, well, Senator Tom Cotton is very much in favor of those policies. And if you don't believe me, we have a nice little video compilation to help you see what I'm talking about.
First of all, food and water cut off, a humanitarian crisis and destruction there.
Shannon, as far as I'm concerned, Israel can bounce the rubble in Gaza.
Why does Israel have a responsibility to provide aid to Gaza? Israel was the victim of an unprovoked, vicious attack on October 7th. Why should they provide aid to the aggressor nation or aggressor? Gaza's not a nation. To the aggressors on October 7th. We didn't provide aid to Germany and Japan during World War II.
If they glued their hands to a car or the pavement, well, probably pretty painful to have their skin ripped off. But I think that's the way we'd handle it in Arkansas. And I would encourage most people anywhere that get stuck behind criminals like this who are trying to block traffic to take matters in their own hands. There's only usually a few of them, and there's a lot of people being inconvenienced. It's time to put an end to this nonsense.
Oh, that's interesting. So, Cotton asked an interesting question in that compilation video we just showed you, including why is it Israel's obligation or responsibility to provide funding or relief to the Palestinian people in Gaza? Okay, well, why is it the responsibility of American citizens to bankroll the slaughter that the Israeli Defense Forces are currently carrying out in the Gaza Strip? Because we are the ones funding it. Okay, while our own country falls apart, while our own people are suffering within the borders of our own country, our government has been shelling out our resources to a foreign country that had an economic surplus in 2021. When was the last time we had an economic surplus? Oh, that's right, that was in 2001. Our country falls apart, and people like Senator Tom Cotton collect our money and ship it over to a foreign country that's literally using it to carry out war crimes as we speak. That's who Tom Cotton is. Tom Cotton is neoconservatism personified. That's who he is. And I'm curious now that, it's the word's out there that Donald Trump is the one who was pushing for the ceasefire deal, who was applying pressure to both Hamas and the Israelis to accept the deal. Does Tom Cotton still disagree with the ceasefire? And if he does, he should voice that specifically to Donald Trump publicly so we can be amused by it. Now, if you're wondering what's motivating Tom Cotton, like what does he have some weird devotion to a foreign country when he should be more concerned about his own country and the people within it? Not really, but money talks, or as my dad would say, the cash is talking. So take a look at this. Of the non-dark money that's been contributed to him, the Israel lobby has contributed $237,739 to Senator Cotton's campaign coffers. Money talks. But again, I'm sure that's not all the money he's received from the Israel lobby, because dark money donations still serve as a massive corrupting virus in our political system. So I'm sure he's collected more money than that. And so he will go out there, embarrass himself, and say disgusting things about how innocent people deserve to have their tiny strip of land blown up to smithereens. Okay. Now, according to Open Secrets, Cotton has taken that money, but let's also talk a little more about one of the claims in Tom Cotton's post, because he stated that Hamas is nearly destroyed. And guess what? That is untrue. That is very untrue. I know it sounds super counterintuitive, but by carrying out a brutal slaughtering campaign like the one the Israeli government and the IDF forces have, what ends up happening is it drums up more support for Hamas, and that appears to be the case here. I mean, look, here at TYT, we've got no love for Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. He's one of my least favorite figures within the Biden administration. But even he admitted something really important recently, and you should listen to it.
We've long made the point to the Israeli government that Hamas cannot be defeated by a military campaign alone, that without a clear alternative, a post-conflict plan, and a credible political horizon for the Palestinians, Hamas, or something just as abhorrent and dangerous, will grow back. That's exactly what's happened in northern Gaza since October 7th. Each time Israel completes its military operations and pulls back, Hamas militants regroup and reemerge because there's nothing else to fill the void. Indeed, we assess that Hamas has recruited almost as many new militants as it has lost.
You want to know why that happens? When a government, when a military slaughters all of your family members, when they bomb your home, when they give you nothing to live for, you want revenge. And you join Hamas in seeking revenge. What Israel has done has served as a major recruiting tool for Hamas. I think that's been abundantly clear. I mean, so much so that Anthony Blinken, of all people, is admitting it. And the United States has completely failed to stop Israel from creating even more instability and extremism in the region. So let's dive into a piece by Professor of Political Science, Robert A. Pape. He wrote an incredible piece in Foreign Affairs. I highly recommend you guys read all of it. We'll talk a little bit about the highlights, but it's titled "Hamas is Winning: Why Israel's Failing Strategy Makes Its Enemy Stronger." And so here are the relevant excerpts that I think you should know about. For a terrorist or insurgent group, the key source of power is not the size of its current generation of fighters, but its potential to gain supporters from the local community in the future. Following the US occupation of Iraq in 2003, the number of fighters in the Sunni insurgency grew from 5,000 in the spring of 2004 to 20,000 by the fall of that same year, to 30,000 in February of 2007, according to US estimates. The more people the United States killed, the faster the insurgency grew. So I think that parallel, that example that Pape provided is an important one to talk about, to focus on, because it shows you just how counterproductive it is to carry out a brutal war that shows absolutely no concern for civilian lives. If you're brutalizing civilians, if you're slaughtering civilians, if you're wiping out every family member or most family members, people who remain are going to become radicalized against the government and against the military that carried out these attacks. I mean, think about it. When you give people nothing to live for, well, you've created a situation in which they are the perfect targets for recruitment for extremist groups. And so Pape notes that support for Hamas has only grown due to the way that Israel has prosecuted this war. And he is correct about that. Political support for Hamas has grown, especially compared with its competitors. For instance, although Hamas and its main rival, Fatah, enjoyed roughly equivalent levels of support in June 2023, by June of 2024, twice as many Palestinians supported Hamas, 40%, compared with 20% for Fatah. And that might seem, again, contradictory. It might seem like, well, why would anyone want to join, this group that carried out a brutal assault, brutal murders of innocent civilians on the Israeli side on October 7th, which then sparked the brutality and the carnage that's been carried out by the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza? Well, again, it's because they want to fight back. They want to retaliate after they've lost everything, their homes, their family members. All right, you guys get the picture. And Pape goes on to explain how Hamas distributes a massive amount of propaganda in order to gain support and recruit more fighters. And in a way, Israel has really helped them with this recruiting effort. The material centers on three themes. The Palestinian people have no choice but to fight because Israel is bent on committing unspeakable atrocities against all Palestinians, even if they are not involved in military operations. By the way, that's just demonstrably true based on what we've witnessed over the last 15 months. Under Hamas's leadership, Palestinians can defeat Israel on the battlefield. That's a dubious claim. And those fighters who die in the battlefield will be accorded honor and glory. And all of this is to say that wanton slaughter will not eliminate Hamas. Every expert, including military experts, have made that clear. But Israel moves forward anyway with the help, with the Biden administration, aiding and abetting that effort. And in fact, Cotton's statement was so extreme, going back to Senator Tom Cotton and how he did not agree with the ceasefire deal. His statement was so extreme that some of the usual Israel cheerleaders like John Fetterman, Elise Stefanik, Brian Mast, or Richie Torres have not backed him on it. Okay, so instead, they have either celebrated the hostage deal or they've said nothing at all. And that's pretty incredible, especially when you're talking about Brian Mast. That's the guy who showed up to the halls of Congress wearing an IDF uniform, which I personally find disgusting. Okay, you're on US soil. You're supposed to represent the American people and the American government, but okay. But that guy, Brian Mast, didn't even say anything negative about the ceasefire deal. Sadly, it seems like Cotton will get his way after all, especially since Israel seems to, for the most part at the moment, reneged on this ceasefire deal as they have previously. But we will obviously follow the story closely and give you updates as they develop.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.